Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's talk the new movie. How did you get attached to it?
I had made a few movies in Taiwan already, but all in local language, so basically Taiwanese movies. And one of them was shot by a cinematographer named Michael Famigliari, and he actually directed and shot the last two to All the Boys I Loved. So
Mhm.
he knew the company Ace really well, so he recommended me for this. And it was in the middle of the pandemic, and I heard it's this kind of fun little escapist movie about Taiwan from like a foreigner's perspective, which I hadn't done before. So I thought it would just be a fun thing to do in the middle of the pandemic. Try to shoot this like movie, like the opposite of a pandemic movie, which is, like this escapist fantasy movie about traveling, and going to another country and experiencing that world.
Well, you completely capture that in the movie.
I think,
So when you were approaching this, shooting it, how do you balance obviously the location, making that so much a part? Not, let me back up, making the location another character in the movie, while also sticking to the story of trying to tell this, coming of age love story, all mixed into one.
right, right. I mean, I guess the one way kind of we approached it was like, there's a certain magic to the city, and like the city adds like, a layer of romance or a layer of like charm to the actual romance. So just thinking of it like as being like integrated, like there's a lot of things in the locations of the book that they were written, specifically for this location, but then, they gave me the flexibility of thinking like, well, it might be even more romantic if we set it on a sky bridge in the middle of the city, or it might be more interesting if we put it, in this archway, while like a typhoon is coming down, like there's rain everywhere. So a lot of it was just like trying to interweave like that. I knew the city very well. So it was about like interweaving the city into the story a little bit more to make it feel like, for lack of a better word, like another character in the story.
As you were crafting it, was there one specific location that you said yourself, I have to shoot here, or this is where this scene has to take place?
Yeah, it's definitely that Skybridge scene when they're dancing. That was the one where it's very hard to permit, very hard to shoot, but we just knew that like that would be the most romantic way to shoot that scene is like the two of them in the middle of the night, right before typhoon hits in like this isolated bridge. So that was the one that I think really, for me and the DP, we really knew that we had to shoot there, and also that was like the thing we really had to capture was like nighttime Taipei in the middle of the city.
Now, you just said that you had to get a permit for this and kind of it was very hard. Do you have a plan as a director? Do you have a plan B if a set doesn't work out that you're like, oh, well, got to make a quick change to this location or do something different? Do you always have a plan B, C, D?
Yeah, there's always like backups. Usually more about weather than anything else. We were lucky because I think due to the fact that we were shooting during COVID, everyone was kind of together. So like there weren't like, actor availability issues or like travel issues because everyone was kind of stuck together. But weather is always an issue. So we always have like backups. But I try my best to fight for like that Skybridge scene. I don't think in that case we might have had a backup. I don't remember, but I don't think it would have worked anywhere else. So sometimes you have to stick to it. Like, there are things you can be flexible about, there are things you can't be flexible about. So kind of figuring out what you can sacrifice, what you can't compromise about.
Now, did you read the book after you were became attached to the movie?
I actually had read the book before, way before like I was even considered for the movie, and I think even maybe before there was a an inkling of like turning it into a movie. Someone had recommended it to me just because I hadn't been on Loveboat, but it touches something that I'm pretty familiar with, which is the idea of like foreigners coming to Taiwan, especially Americans. So I'd read it, thought it was like a lot of fun. Obviously it's a YA book, so it's not exactly, I'm a little old maybe as a target audience, but I still thought it was very charming and very fun.
Did you go back and read it again, or did you say no? I've read it. I'm gonna see what I can craft up with what's based off the screenplay and my the rest of my crew.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't read it again, very intentionally. I mean, the book is great, but I think it was a lot about not getting too stuck to like, oh, this was this one plot point that we have to hit. Trying to be more like organic about, okay, now we have these actors, now we have these locations, now we have this crew, now we have this script, and let's see what we can do with all this stuff, and not, you know, for better or worse, not to get like, bogged down by the book because I know we're doing something in a different medium.
As a director, do you find it to have more pressure when there's already a book attached to it, that there's not as much freedom, or for you is this kind of more of a challenge?
No, I think it's definitely more of a challenge, and this is the first time I've adapted something. The project I did after this was also a book adaptation,
Mm-hmm.
but for TV. So I think kind of the same thing, which is it's the challenge that's really interesting. Is like, okay, obviously the books have a built-in audience and people who like the book, you know, definitely. But then you think about what can I do to maybe elevate certain parts of the book, or what can I do to like make it unique in its own way without, you know, derailing what the book, you know, the plots of the book or like the characters of the book. So it's a lot of that, like, you know, I think for this particular movie, a lot of it was like thinking how to get into Everett's head. You know, that's always a problem with books is that, you know, you could write in the book, you write exactly what the character is thinking. So you keep up like little whimsical pops, you know, little these kind of little non sequitur breaks in like reality to try to get a little bit more inside her head. So that's something I think you can do with film that's really fun to try to capture like the essence of like, you know, book where you can feel like you're with the character the whole time.
I think what you guys did so nicely in this one was those whimsical pops where like you get to hear her narrate a little bit about herself, what she's thinking. It didn't feel forced. It was just seamlessly in there. And sometimes I think when people throw things in there from books that just feel like they break that fourth wall, you lose the audience completely. But you guys did it beautifully. Like
Oh, thank you.
everything
Yeah,
just came across.
I think the trick was that we would try to think of like visuals that would match it. I think if you
Mhm.
just hear her voice and there's no like quirky visuals or like kind of fun things going around it, then you get a little bit of like, okay, I'm just hearing a voiceover now. But I think we tried our best. I wish we could have done more of it, but like the idea of like, you know, sometimes you just get these like quirky little sequences as if you're in her mind and just hearing her talk about what's in her mind, as opposed to like you're saying, like just breaking the fourth wall just to break the fourth wall.
For you, what would you say was the most challenging scene to film?
The challenging scene of the film, definitely some of the typhoon stuff. You know, we knew that that was like a set piece that had to be very romantic. But just a lot of technical challenges with like, you know, trying to do a typhoon all in one night. Especially like, you know, when they're running through the alleys and stuff like that. Just again, like that kind of stuff is so technical, but you want to feel romantic and, you know,
Mm-hmm.
feel natural and, you know, like it really is like happening. But then it takes a lot of technical stuff to do that. So I think that was the challenge. And then I think shooting some of the dance stuff because you know, Ashley's not a natural dancer. She, you know, she did her best and she took a lot of lessons and trained a lot, but you know, still trying to make it feel like, you know, uh we're not covering up, you know, like her dance abilities or trying to like cut around them, just trying to make it feel like, okay, we're just naturally shooting her dance in a way which doesn't feel like, you know, we're overcompensating for the fact that she's not a dancer. So that was a challenging too.
As a director, you filmed this during a pandemic. You had a lot of technical challenges with bringing certain scenes to life. How do you keep your cast and your crew motivated throughout this whole thing to get the best shot possible?
I think we were lucky on this one because, you know, the four main kids, Ross, Ashley, Nico, and Chelsea, we were shooting in Taiwan, and Taiwan at the time, it wasn't the height of the pandemic, but Taiwan was like basically like closed, the borders were closed.
Mm-hmm.
So once you got into Taiwan, it was like you were in like an alternative universe where COVID didn't exist because there was like zero cases. And I think they had such fun coming to Taiwan. You know, they had to quarantine 2 weeks just to get into the country. But after that, I just felt like they brought so much joy to being in Taiwan that I feel like that really propelled like the movie, like the shooting of the movie. Just seeing like the four of them, you know, being in Taiwan and I think having a great time and then just enjoying like the filmmaking process, exploring like a new country. I think that for me was the thing that really pushed the movie kind of forward, you know, or just seeing them enjoy like life.
Well, for my final question for you today is what are you hoping fans get from the movie?
Yeah, I think, you know, because the fans probably do skew a little bit younger. I just hope like, you know, that there's a chance to travel. Because for me, this is a movie all about like, you know, you're supposed to go to a place that makes you uncomfortable to kind of like find yourself, or to challenge yourself or, you know, to do things that you wouldn't think you would be doing. So I hope that even more than kind of the romance angle is that they can get something out of that. The idea that like, you know, when you're young, you should travel and you should put yourself into unique experiences and you should kind of make yourself uncomfortable, you know, the way ever is. So that's what I think I wish the younger audience could really get out of it is like, you know, travel if you can. You know,
Perfect.
go back to where your parents came from and see, you know, where they grew up. And, you know, that's I think a huge part of like the immigrant experience too.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I'm super excited for everyone to see the movie this week.
Cool. Thank you.